Last episode of Call Me Blackity Black, we talked about colorism in the perspective of a lighter-skinned person. Everyone has a different experience due to skin color, but at the macro level, lighter-skinned individuals are praised over darker-skinned people. In the episode, Paper Bag Brown, I shared my personal experience with being lighter-skinned and black. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, go straight to YouTube right now, give it a listen, and tell us what you think. This episode will be addressing the continual issue that dark-skinned people face in our society. Now, my experience with dark-skinnedness is always from an outside perspective due to my complexion. On today's episode, we're having my good friend Keita talk about her experience with being dark-skinned in black culture. So, hey Keita, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Thank you so much for coming out and doing this podcast with us, and we're very excited to have you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for considering me and letting me tell my story.
Awesome. So for those who may not be familiar with Call Me Blackity Black, the way we like to format our podcast is with a personal experience at the beginning of the episode to give the viewers a real glimpse of what goes on in the mind of a black person. So I know for myself personally, I have my own personal experiences with being black, but since you have a different perspective and a different experience, can you express when there was like a time where you realized that being dark-skinned was different than any other part of blackness?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that this was the first time that I realized that being darker skinned was different, but this is definitely the first time I remember being told something weird just because of my dark skin. So when I was about 10 or 11 years old, me and my family would attend church every Sunday, and there were always these two elderly black women who would always find their way to me at one point or another and always say, "Hey, you're really pretty for a dark-skinned girl." And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant, and I would just kind of brush it off as, whatever.
Right.
But it wasn't until I got older when I, learned more about what that meant and had more personal life experiences where I was able to know that that was kind of a backhanded compliment.
And it sucks because as a child, you don't really understand.
Yeah.
No one is really telling you being dark-skinned is ugly, being light-skinned is pretty. They don't say it like that to your face, but they do imply it to you. Like, you really shouldn't go outside today. You might get a little too dark.
Yeah. I've been told that before, too.
Right. Growing up for me, for the longest time, and to the viewers, I'm not sure if it's just me or other light-skinned black kids have experiences, but I really thought light-skinned people were allergic to Vaseline. Because growing up in my family, my mom would tell me, "Oh no, you can't put Vaseline on." And my mom's not a colorist person at all. My mom's pretty neutral, hate everyone equally and love everyone equally at the same time. So when growing up, my mom would be like, "Oh yeah, you can't put on Vaseline. You can't put on Vaseline." And I'm like, "Oh, she's like, light-skinned kids can't put on Vaseline." And I would see my cousins who are darker skinned put on Vaseline. I would always be so jealous. So one day, my Aunt Belinda, she put Vaseline on me because her kids are dark skinned and I was sleeping over. So she put Vaseline on me because I need moisture.
Yeah.
Black people, we don't like to be ashy for the viewers. So you see a black person ashy, offer some lotion. Be a helping hand. Black people, we already know how it goes. So my Aunt Belinda puts Vaseline on me. And I was so happy. I was ecstatic because my skin didn't burn off. I was like, why is my mom tripping? And I get home and I'm shiny. And my mom was like, "She put Vaseline on you in the summertime? Does she know what she's done?" And I'm like, "Moisturize me. That's what she's done." And my mom never understood why light-skinned kids shouldn't put on Vaseline, especially in the summertime, until I got older and I understood that they didn't want me to get darker because tanning oil helps you get darker.
Oh.
And I never put two and two together as a child because an adult said, "Oh, don't put Vaseline on. You're too light for Vaseline." But in reality, it was, we don't want you to get darker, so you can't put on something that will help you become more tan. But my mom didn't know it. It was just always passed down from her mom or her mom's mom You know, it's just a generational thing. And that was just in my family. That lighter skinned kids don't put on Vaseline because we don't want them to become dark.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to like my second thought. What is so wrong with being darker skinned?
I wish I had an answer for you. But in my experience, I kind of feel like the tables have turned more recently.
Mm-hmm.
All you hear in the media and in person is chocolate girls are winning. Get you a chocolate girls. All I hear is chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. And sometimes I think, where was this years ago when I was so overlooked all the time? Anytime I went out with my sister, she's more of your complexion, maybe a little bit lighter.
I met her.
Yeah, anytime we would go out, all the attention was focused on her. And there were times I was like, why? Is it because she's older than me? Or like, what is it? I never put two and two together. And now I can't go anywhere without being like catcalled or being called chocolate at least a couple times a day. It's like, okay, where's this craze come from?
Mm-hmm.
Because years ago, being darker was not in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I love the new movement that we're having.
Oh, definitely.
And like, it's a great thing. We should be embracing like all people, all skin colors, especially those who have been subjected to the Outer Banks for absolutely no reason, for their lack of whiteness. You know, black skinnedness is only praised because it's closer to whiteness.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to make white people more comfortable. But lighter skin is just a phenotypic trait. No one can choose how they appear. Whether you go out and try to find yourself a white woman to make mixed babies, your kid will still be half black.
Yeah.
And your child can still come out with the beautiful melanin that protects them from the sun.
Yeah.
And even though this movement is so great, I feel like a lot of times what I have been seeing is sometimes can be still over-sexualized.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm like, I see what you're trying to do. I get what you're trying to do. But you are almost making this beautiful movement toxic again. The way you have over-sexualized light-skinnedness and how it's most beautiful, you're almost doing that same toxicity with darker skinnedness.
Yeah, it's more of a craze or a fad rather than like authentically loving that person because of color of their skin. Like I've only experienced both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the reality of what it is.
It's really terrible, you know? It's really terrible because no one of any race should have to go through the over-sexualization of them as a person because of their ethnicity.
It's not just being over-sexualized, it's also being seen as the more aggressive type.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I've experienced that too. When I'm calmly expressing my discontent, it's seen as me being aggressive or just being looked at as a more aggressive person because of my darker skin. I just remember going to camp in the summertime as a child and just getting looks from the white kids who attended. It's like I'm not even an aggressive person. I'm actually a really sweet person. So that was always confusing to me, to just be seen and put in that category.
So with all these experiences that you have experienced, you've experienced both good and negative experiences.
Definitely.
How would you say this has like shaped who you are as a black person?
Well, I feel like it is definitely harder to love the skin that I'm in, just based on my past experience and based on what people are expecting me to be. So I really had to focus on like loving myself for who I am. And as someone who has a very chocolate-filled, darker complexion daughter, I think it's more important for me to express that to her, that her dark skin is beautiful, so that regardless if she has any instances where I've had when people have told her, wow, you're really pretty for a dark-skinned girl, or she's seen as the aggressive type, that what other people say about her doesn't define who she is because of the color of her skin. So
Exactly.
Definitely want to make sure I am pouring everything that I wish was being told to me when I was going through those things into her.
How do you feel that this next generation of darker skinned black kids are going to be different from your generation?
Honestly, I don't think there will be much of a difference. As far as colorism in our community goes, as far as racism in the country goes, I mean, you can only hope that things get better. I mean, here we are years and years later and not much has changed.
Yeah.
But looking to more positive for the future, just what I said, thinking about my own daughter, just constantly pouring that self-love and that awareness of who she is. Just me pouring into her and helping her realize her self-worth, or her self-worth doesn't come from what people may think or may say about her due to her darker skin tone.
Yeah, I love that. Like, honestly, that's the only way we can change, is by changing the way we think. Like, our generation thinks the way we think because our parents pour that into us.
Yeah.
Our grandparents pour that into us. So imagine the change we could have where it's not light skin versus dark skin. It's black people together, living in harmony, not trying to fight each other like, oh, I like myself a red bone. You know, I like myself a dark skinned chocolate chick. I like myself a light skinned person. I just like you as who you are, for the character of who you are. The same thing Martin Luther King said for black and white children, it applies for us as black people as a whole.
Just never assume, just based on skin tone. And I may look mean, but I'm not. Far from it. And that we're human too. We have feelings. And even though you may think you're giving us a compliment, it can be taken as an insult.
Right. So everyone listening, that's the advice. To listen to what people have to say, to hear people's experience, to understand their experience, not to assume what they've been through and how you should handle it. Listen to what people are saying. There's an experience you have never lived and can never live because that's not your life, that's not your story. So instead of trying to write someone's story for them, read what they have already experienced. It's so easy, like in the black community, we can say, well, we're all black, but my black experience and Keita's black experience will always be different because we are different. Our life is different, and the way society deems us is completely different. We are people first before anything else. So there should be no light skin versus dark skin. It's kind of silly. It's ridiculous. So thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Call Me Black and Black. This is our first go around with having an interviewee as amazing as Keita. We usually just interview myself, but we gave you the luxury of having someone else. Keita.
Thank you for having me. It was a good experience.
Honestly, for myself, it's really great to hear, like, one-on-one, someone else's experience outside my family. It's really easy to assume someone's experience based on my own family, like, oh, this is what all dark-skinned black people have been through. Oh, this is what all light-skinned black people have been through. This is what black people have been through because of my own experience. So for you to share that with me and for all the viewers is really great. And it's just a reminder for me as an individual not to assume someone's experience based on what I know, but to actually ask and listen to what they have to say. To understand their experience from their experience, not from my own. So thank you everyone for listening to this episode. Remember, if you haven't had a chance to check out episode 3, Paperback Brown, it goes on to the light skin experience of blackness. So please check it out before listening to this one so you can really grasp the difference from light skinnedness and dark skinnedness within the black community. And remember y'all, stay black.